Welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. On today's episode, I want to talk about what is possibly one of the best arguments against investing in modern Pokemon cards and potentially even just Pokemon in general. And no, it's not the cards, it's not the set, it's not the IP. What it just boils down to is the biggest thing going against modern Pokemon cards is just you. No, that's probably something you didn't expect to hear, and it's probably something you don't want to hear. But the real danger in modern product lies with you. And a lot of people, including myself, say, go back and look at any Pokemon set, any Pokemon product older than 5 years old. And that Pokemon set or product has been historically a very good investment, especially for anyone that picked that up at release at MSRP. But what a lot of people really fail to do, we neglect it, we negate it, is we do not talk about how many people actually stick around for 5 years. And if you have a ton of people buying modern product, the question needs to be asked, where will these people be in 5 years? And statistically speaking, a lot of those people will not be in the hobby. And my favorite statistic is that 69% of all statistics are made up. So with that said, 96.69% of you guys listening to this video right now today will not be in the hobby in 5 years. And if you don't believe me, here's a little homework for you. Just go back, look at any older Pokemon related YouTube video from 5, 6, 7 years ago. Just go down below, look at the comment section. More likely than not, you will not recognize one single name in that comment section, #GentlemanPokemon. But you probably won't know anyone talking because a lot of those people have left the hobby. And not only have those people left the hobby, but even like the PokeTuber content creators have left the hobby. Yeah, are there still a few remaining? Yes, of course. But for the large majority of the hobby, we've seen a drastic shift in the collectors in the last 5 years. And right now, with this absolute flood of new collectors that have only been in the hobby for some people a month, 6 months, a year, 2 years, a very small, very minimal amount of time, and especially only being in the hobby with this absolute boom hype period, the question needs to be asked. How many of those people will really be around in 5 years? And truthfully, the answer is not what anyone wants to hear. Most of those people are just going to be gone. So if they leave, you have to ask the question, well, all the arguments that are very pro-modern, what does that mean for modern if a lot of the people right now who are really driving up all this demand, driving up all this hype for modern, acquiring a lot of this stuff, sitting on this stuff, making closets full of modern Pokemon cards, what happens if they are not in the hobby? You see people tiptoe, people skirt around this topic, and the way you'll hear people address it is, well, we might see a lot of people who enter the hobby leave, but they're never just come flat out and say that those people are most likely you. You will be the person that will be the downfall of modern. Now, is every single person listening to this video going to be the downfall? No, probably not. Are some of you guys going to stick around? Are some of you guys really passionate, really true about this hobby? Yes. Especially when you go deeper down the YouTube rabbit hole and you get to channels like mine, you get to videos like this, there is a very strong, more likely chance that you'll be around in the future. But when you look at the hobby as a whole, just go on like some of the major PokeTuber channels, go on Reddit, go on Instagram, look at the comment section of people that may not have as much knowledge as you. And like I said, if you've made it down this far in the YouTube rabbit hole, you more likely than not have more knowledge than probably greater than 90% of the people in this hobby. And the reason why is because you're constantly expanding, you're constantly wanting to learn, you're constantly absorbing information. You're absorbing not just information, but you're absorbing different people's thought processes, different people's hypotheses, different people's overall feeling on the hobby. So you're probably, a little bit deeper. But when you go and you look at, like the millionth Reddit comment where somebody posts a photo of an obviously not resealed booster box that is just poor print quality, because that's one thing Pokemon is doing very well right now, is they're coming out with amazing sets, but the print quality for a lot of this stuff is very suspect. And you just see it all the time. People get a brand new booster box from the Pokemon Center. Yes, the PokemonCenter.com. They get a brand new booster box, and the cellophane wrapping around it is a little loose. And the first thing they do is they go on Reddit and ask people, is this booster box resealed? Oh my God, like this is where we are in the hobby right now. These are the questions. So the amount of information, the amount of knowledge is so drastic right now in the hobby. And I'm just afraid that all those people that are on the lower end of the knowledge, or the lower end of just the overall enthusiasm, and I shouldn't even say that they're not enthusiastic, because they are, but they're very foolish with a lot of the things they're doing. Foolish with the amount of money they're spending, not really focusing on buying stuff at MSRP, really, falling into the FOMO, falling into the hype, being misled, being just overall super manipulated, and people do not realize how manipulated they're actually being. There's a lot of people behind the scenes, that wizard behind the curtain, that are actually pulling the strings and making a lot of this stuff happen. But the thing is when you only need a few people behind the scenes, like manipulating people, then eventually everyone does it. And people don't even realize they do it. They just become like these puppets of the puppeteers, and they start to preach a lot of the stuff that is being said, and a lot of it is false, especially when it comes to paying that like very high dollar amount for modern product. Because you know what, 2020 was just this absolute forgiving year. And why do I say it was a forgiving year? Because anyone that in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, any of those people that made a single poor financial Pokemon decision, they were rewarded. Everything was forgiven. Their slates were cleaned, and then the question is, okay, well, now what happens to everybody that made a foolish purchase in 2020, 2021? Will there be another event in the near term that's going to make that, all that right again? It's going to make all those stupid purchases good. And probably that's not going to happen. So when people talk about like the dangers and the true fear of modern product, it's on you. And I'm using you in a general term, but it's you, and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to stop it. I've tried to make videos, I've tried to educate people, I've tried to warn people, but there's not a lot of guarantees in life. But one of the guarantees in life is that people are just going to do whatever they want at the end of the day. And there's nothing I can do, and there's nothing you can do to stop them. We can try to warn them, but when you see all these warning signs happen, it's almost like watching a car crash or watching a train crash. You want to turn away, you want to not watch it, but you got to look. And, when you see a car crash happening, most of the time, if not all the time, there's nothing you can do. So when people talk about the big fear of modern product, I think this is what they really mean. Because what are you going to do with all this product? All these people that have been been hoarding product, if they leave, what's going to happen to all this product? And if they do leave and they do decide to recoup their initial investments, it's going to be extremely hard when these people have already purchased product with years worth of appreciation already built in. And, there's a lot of warning signs out there. There's a lot of people warning about this stuff. When you say, listen, when you go out and you buy a brand new booster box for $160, I want you to be very well aware that a lot of the people who are sitting on product, who have relationships with distributors, are paying between $80 and $95 for this sealed product. So they already have you beat with, I don't know, call it $65, $70 worth of price that they're already going to be up. So the road for you when you purchase stuff at super high dollar amounts at release is just going to be so much harder, and it's going to be so much more uphill than a lot of other people in the hobby. And once people start to realize this, people start to, put things together, start to make stuff make sense to them in their head, and they realize that they got burned on so many different things, it's going to leave a sour taste in their mouth. It's going to leave a poor taste in their mouth. And they're going to leave in droves. And that is the true danger of modern product. Not only do we even see it with modern product, just the new collector in general. I mean, you think about these absolutely crazy, over-exaggerated, over-hyped, like pack breaks and vintage product that people were buying packs for stupid amounts of money. And I'm sorry, the dollar amounts people were paying were stupid. They were stupid. They didn't make sense. They were so far removed from anything that should even be considered rational thoughts. Thank God we're starting to see some of this vintage product retrace a little bit, getting at least a little bit closer to the actual true intrinsic value of the cards that are inside of this stuff. But, things had ran away so much on the hobby, and people try to warn. But that's the thing too. It's like, okay, you could only warn so much because at the same time there was so much money to be made. And people say, well, what do you mean? You're talking about, how everything was super inflated, but there was still money to be made? Yeah, there was. Because if you had good relationships, if you knew, all the workarounds, if you knew how to get products for cheap, if you knew how to do pre-orders, if you knew how to get it at MSRP, if you knew how to capitalize, if you knew how to sell, if you already had like the basic fundamentals built in, it was very easy. If you were really quick to grade and if you started to see some of the real initial like cues that said, everybody's flooding to graded cards. Let's dump all of our graded cards onto the market. Let's pick up all these raw copies. Let's send them away for graded. Yeah, did turnaround times go a little bit crazy? Yeah, PSA went nuts. What did a lot of people do who had a lot of cards that they were sitting on that were never worth it to, send away the PSA because there was just not a lot of money to be made in 8s or 9s. But hey, let's dump all this stuff real quick to CGC before people catch on. And I made a ton of videos like this when this channel was very new, warning people all this stuff is going to happen. Then all these people say, oh, the junk slabs, the junk slabs, the junk slabs. No one really knows what that means. People have guesses. You could go watch like a Z&G Emporium video and see a million Charizards come back. The returns are exactly what you expected. So if you sent away a lot of cards and you're able to instantly flip them on the market very quick before the flood of returns that you expected to come back, it was very easy. And you could make the argument that it's still very easy to do that if you could time the market. And that's a crazy thing that a lot of people say. How hard the Pokemon market is to truly time. But you can make the argument that right now it's actually kind of easy to time. And why do I say it's kind of easy to time? It's easy to time if you have the inventory, if you have the relationships. You can see the traits, you can see what's going on in the hobby. There are a lot of cards right now, today, that are selling for still overinflated prices. So if you realize that and you have that card and you're able to dump it on the market, that is still a way to time the market. Is there a risk involved that, that product could continue to increase in value in the long run? Yes. But even then, you could still capitalize on this market. You can really capitalize on a lot of the highs. A lot of people talk about this stuff. It's actually easier to time the market right now than it has ever been in any point in the hobby. But it all boils down to what I just said. You have to have already had the inventory, already have your cards graded, already have the sealed product, ready to dump on the market. If you're going to try to play this, day to day, call it day trader aspect, where you're trying to buy slabs and flip slabs and buy sealed product and flip sealed product, you can still do that. It's just a little tougher. It's going to take a little bit more knowledge than the average person has, but you can still do it. The real tough thing with that, like day to day flipper mentality when it comes to this stuff, is no one knows how long it's really going to last. But if what I just said to you guys made sense to you, if you've seen these warning signs, if you've seen these dangers, if you've seen people already like adding in years worth of appreciation into product they're buying right now today, especially for this modern stuff, you have to understand, or you have to agree a little bit, that this argument is valid when it goes against modern. Whether or not this argument will end up being true in 5 years, no one knows that for sure. But there is validity to this argument. That's something people need to at least come to grip with. And yes, to use the word, it's you that's going to be the downfall of modern. You, yes, is a very subjective term, especially the way I'm using it for this video. But just understand what I mean, what I'm trying to say. You know how I feel about modern. You know that I'm bullish. You know that I believe in the hobby as a whole, But I think it's important to show all sides, and this is just the truth. People don't like to hear the truth. But other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you on the next one.